There are 8 new and improved subclasses coming to Dungeons & Dragons 2024 as part of the Heroes of Faerun set. In this video, we're going to talk about the 8 subclasses. There's only 2, I believe, that were just updated. We're talking Blade Singer and Knowledge Cleric. The rest are altogether new in this. So what do we think about them? Let's find out. But before we jump into that, if you love Dungeons & Dragons and other nerd culture content, make sure to subscribe to the channel, give this video a thumbs up, and leave a comment down below, even if it's just an emoji, to help in the algorithm. All right, so how about those subclasses? So first, let's just go over the complete list. You have the College of the Moon Bard. You have the Knowledge Domain Cleric. You have the Banneret Fighter, Oath of the Noble Genies Paladin, Winter Walker Ranger, Scion of the Three Rogue, Spellfire Sorcery, for the Sorcerer, and Blade Singer Wizard. So correct me if I'm wrong, but there's actually 3 that are in this list that we have seen in some form before. So the 2 I mentioned before, and the Banneret Fighter, which has also been related to the Purple Dragon Knight. But let's dive into the College of the Moon Bard first. Bards of this college trace their lineage to the Moonshade Druids, inheriting the sacred task of preserving the Isle Fae songs and ancient stories. They draw upon the Moonwell's primal light to inspire allies, protect the natural world, and turn every performance into a moment of renewal. Okay, sounds interesting, a little druidish with this one. Let's see what it's about. College of the Moon Bards are elusive performers with deep ties to nature and the shifting magic of the Fae. With the Inspired Eclipse option of their Moon's Inspiration feature, they can vanish in a shimmer of moonlight and reappear elsewhere on the battlefield. Through the Lunar Vitality option, they can bolster their healing spells, restoring extra vitality and granting allies bursts of movement that can carry them across the battlefield. So I actually looked into these 2 a little bit. One of them is essentially when you give somebody inspiration, you can teleport, kind of like a Misty Step, 30 feet, and then you're invisible until the start of your next round, so long as you don't do something to break it, like deal damage, attack, so on and so forth. The other one, as it says, bolsters your healing spells and also allows you to give that person 10 feet of extra movement. As their connection to their tradition deepens, they learn to call down the moon's silver light through Blessing of Moonlight. The Moonbeam spell becomes both weapon and blessing, searing foes while washing nearby allies in gentle restoration. At the height of their power, Eventide Splendor allows them to share their vanishing trick with others, letting companions slip away from danger or strategically reposition. So again, I dove into the Moonbeam one a little bit, and it's pretty solid. So in 2024, for those of you that don't know, the Moonbeam is essentially a moving laser that when it enters the space of an enemy, they make that roll, and then they take damage. They either take half if they pass, or if they fail, of course, to take all of the d10's damage that the spell is going to give. It's no longer like you just set it somewhere and if they start their turn in or anything. No, you place it that first turn, it's just where you placed it. After that, you use your action to move it. So if there's 7 enemies out there, you can move it 60 feet to target all 7 enemies, requiring all of them to make a save. What this does is allow you to also heal an ally for 2d4 for every enemy that fails their saving throw. So if they pass, they're still going to take half the damage, you don't do any healing. But if they fail, then you end up healing an ally for 2d4 per enemy that fails. So if you have 6 enemies, you hit all 6 with it by dragging it around, 3 of them fail, you're healing for 64 on top of dealing all the damage it does. It's not bad, but it can only be used once per long rest. I think this is to balance it a bit. If you can do it every combat, that's insane. And it'll also get you in this habit of feeling like you have to do that because it's so good, and therefore makes playing it kind of boring. But let's move on. Next up is the Knowledge Domain Cleric, which we saw in the 2014 Player's Handbook, but it did not make an appearance in 2024. So now they've updated it with this. Clerics of the Knowledge Domain serve gods like Ogma, Gond, and Denir, treating learning as an act of devotion. To them, insight is a sacred currency and discovery a form of prayer. These scholars delve into hidden libraries, decode lost languages, and uncover truths in the pursuit of knowledge. Knowledge Domain Clerics embody the belief that knowledge is power. With the Blessings of Knowledge feature, they master tools and scholarly disciplines, transforming skill and study into sacred acts. Their Mind Magic feature allows them to call upon their deities to grant spells of insight and foresight without expending spell slots. As their connection to their deity expands, they receive the Unfettered Mind features, which allows them to communicate telepathically to nearby creatures and resist effects that impose intelligence saving throws. At the pinnacle of their devotion, Divine Foreknowledge lets them glimpse threads of the future, granting the clarity to act with an uncanny timing and unwavering purpose. Now, I haven't dug into a lot of what these things actually are, but the sound of it is that it's kind of niche. It's going to be more about like role play style things. It doesn't sound super mechanically offensive, but again, I haven't dove into it, so if anybody has, share it down in the comments. It sounds interesting, but again, interesting in like a utility role play situational kind of way, and not a this is how I deal damage, and this is how I bolster the party kind of way. Moving on to the Banneret Fighter. Bannerets are knights and champions whose strength is magnified by their ability to inspire others. Found among the ranks of Cormyr's purple dragons, the armies of the Silver Marches, and wandering as knights errant across Faerun, they embody valor, discipline, and an unshakable belief in unity. Bannerets excel when fighting alongside others. Through their Knightly Envoy feature, they bridge words and steel, mastering languages and diplomacy to turn tense parley into alliance. With their Group Recovery feature, they can rally wounded companions to their feet, their second wind breathing life into the hearts of allies as much as into their own. This sounds pretty good. It sounds like a very leader, let's go, motivational, and being able to get other people with your second wind seems pretty good. As their training coalesces into leadership, they gain the Team Tactics feature, which expands their group recovery into an advantage that their allies can use to turn the tide of any battle. At higher levels, Bannerets can call upon the Rallying Surge feature, spurring comrades into motion and giving them the chance to strike or reposition as a reaction. Later in their journey, the Shared Resilience feature lets them bear the weight of failure for their friends, lending a heightened use of Indomitable to snatch victory from the jaws of defeat. For those of you who don't know, Indomitable is really, really good in 2024. So if you can share that in some way, that's huge. Although this is a very high level. I think this is level 17 here. Ultimately, with their Inspiring Commander feature, their courage becomes contagious, expanding the radius of group recovery and Rallying Surge and protecting Bannerets against effects that would lay them low. Again, without really being able to see all the mechanics and things like that, because I don't have the book yet, this sounds really good. Now, is it something that sounds really good on paper, but when you dive into the mechanics, not as good? Well, we don't know yet, or at least I don't. Oath of the Noble Genies Paladin. Paladins who swear the Oath of the Noble Genies draw their might from the elemental planes, channeling the majesty of Tao, Jinn, Efreet, and Marids. Many hail from Kalimshan, where ancient pacts between mortals and genies still shape the fate of the vast desert. Paladins of this oath wield the primal power of the elements as both weapon and creed. With their Elemental Smite feature, they can call upon the power of the 4 types of genies, grasping foes with earth and might, vanishing in a swirl of wind, unleashing cascading fire, or summoning waves that scatter their enemies. Okay. Their Genie's Splendor feature blesses them with an otherworldly grace when unarmored, allowing them to dance through battle like the wind. As they rise in power, their aura of elemental shielding grants themselves and allies in their aura of protection resistant to damage dealt by the chosen element. At higher levels, the Elemental Rebuke feature allows them to turn the wrath of attackers back upon them, reducing the damage of the attack and lashing out with elemental energy. At the pinnacle of their power, the Noble Scion feature lets these paladins soar above the fray and bend fate itself with a word. Oh wow. This all sounds really intense and cool, almost not super paladin-y, and normally there's like a devotion to something, oath, this is like genies. It feels a little odd. It almost feels like a warlock thing, because they have the Pact of the Warlock, but it sounds cool. The Winter Walker Ranger. Winter Walkers are hardened survivalists shaped by the merciless frost of Icewind Dale. They know the monsters that stalk its vast horizons, the Netherese ruins buried beneath the snow, and the merciless biting cold. They are protectors of the frozen wild, though to fight the dangers of the tundra, they must become one themselves. Winter Walkers thrive where others perish. With their Frigid Explorer feature, they strike the biting chill of the tundra, their attacks and spells cutting through even creatures with resistance to cold damage. At the same time, their Hunter's Rhyme feature grants them resilience while trapping their quarry in icebound pursuit. I looked into this one a little bit, and essentially that Hunter's Rhyme thing is something that's added on to Hunter's Mark. If you have marked that enemy with Hunter's Mark, they cannot take the disengage action. In addition, they can deal extra cold damage once they hit a certain level, and then it actually scales up from a D4 to a D6. So when you combine that with a Hunter's Mark extra D6, it can be pretty good. As they embrace more of the deadly cold, the Fortifying Soul feature lets them share that endurance with others, restoring their allies' strength and hardening their resolve against fear. When pressed, their Chilling Retribution feature allows them to answer with a freezing backlash that halts foes mid-strike. At the height of their power, Frozen Haunt gives them access to a ghostly, snowy form, partially incorporeal and wreathed in a blizzard that punishes all who draw near. Yeah, so basically they're gonna end up getting a rebuke as well. Moving on to the Scion of the Three, the Rogue subclass. Now, those of you who may not be familiar with the Three, well, if you've played Baldur's Gate, you actually are. There's going to be Bale, Bane, and Myrkul. Scions of the Three are rogues bound to 3 malevolent Faerunian gods. Bane, a god of tyranny, Bale, a god of violence and murder, and Myrkul, a god of death. Some Scions embrace their patron willingly, reveling in divine cruelty, while others are cursed into service, their souls changed to lethal purpose. Scions of the Three blend terrifying talent and deadly divinity to devastating effect. With their Bloodthirst feature, they can teleport to a recently wounded foe and strike again, turning another suffering into an invitation to to kill. Their Dread Allegiance feature allows them to channel a small portion of the power of the Dead 3, granting them both a damage resistance and a dark gift of magic based on who they choose for the day's work. As their infamy spreads, the Strike Fear feature gives the ability to imbue a target with the Frightened condition, then twist their victim's terror into opportunity. The growing corruption within becomes palpable through their Aura of Malevolence feature, which lashes out with the Dead 3's energy when they use their Bloodthirst feature. In time, the Dread Incarnate feature completes their transformation, aiding them to strike when and where their enemies are most vulnerable. This one, that was a lot of features. It feels like there are a lot of things that are happening here. I want to know what they all are, and is it as cool as it sounds? I don't know if it's the type of rogue that I would play, but in terms of mechanics, the descriptions here seem really neat. Moving on to the second to last one, Spellfire Sorcery for the Sorcerer. These sorcerers are rare souls touched by the raw essence of magic, the Weave. They can use these talents to manifest Spellfire, which is the Weave made tangible. Through this force, they can heal allies, sear enemies, and absorb spells. Spellfire sorcerers embody unfiltered arcane energy, their spells crackling with radiant heat and healing light. Through the Spellfire Burst feature, they can unleash this volatile force when they expend their sorcery points, releasing searing flares of radiant or fire damage, or surrounding themselves and their allies with bolstering flames. As they discover more of their innate talents, the Absorb Spells features grants them the ability to absorb magic. As they discover more of their innate talents, the Absorb Spells feature grants them the ability to absorb magic, turning spells thwarted by counterspell into fuel for their own sorcery. The Honed Spellfire feature strengthens their Spellfire Burst, expanding both the protection and devastation they bring to every battlefield. At their pinnacle, Crown of Spellfire transforms them into living conduits of Spellfire, radiant beings who fly above the fray, shrug off spells, and turn their own life force into protective flames. This one sounds really interesting. I like the idea of, oh, I succeeded on this counterspell, and instead of just being like, oh, I shut it down, it's like, no, I took your magic into me, and now I can utilize it. Now we know counterspell changed a lot in 2024, so we'll have to see how that plays out, but I like the theme at least for sure. Being able to do more of this defensive stuff for your allies and all that sounds intriguing. And lastly, we move to the Bladesinger Wizard, which has seen quite a few updates since its initial release. Bladesingers study a form of wizardry that blends swordplay and spellcraft into a powerful practice, originating in ancient realms like Myth Draenor and carried across Faerun by those who honor its legacy. The Blade Song is a dance that combines powerful magic and blade work with potent defense. When performed in battle, it is both breathtaking and deadly, a display of precision, grace, and intellect. This is just another one that I've always loved the idea of, the description of. When their Blade Song feature is active, Blade Singers can move with preternatural speed and poise. Their attacks stem from their mind as much as their body, while their focus is sharpened. Through the Training in War and Song feature, they enhance their skills, master elegant weapons, and use them as conduits for their spells. As their mastery grows, they gain the extra attack feature, which allows them to weave steel and spell together, striking with the sword one moment and unleashing their arcane talent the next. Ooh, I like that. With the Song of Defense feature, they transform spell slots into barriers of energy, their magic hardening like armor to deflect mortal harm. At the height of their discipline, the Song of Victory feature lets them follow powerful spells with a decisive strike, blending movement and incantation into a single flawless composition. Again, this is one we've seen have a lot of iterations. What do they do with it now? I'm really interested in seeing, because it sounds fun. It's always been a really cool idea, but what do you all think with those descriptions, with hearing what some of these things do? Are you excited for this? Do you think you'll be giving them a try? Share all your thoughts down in the comments. Even if you have nothing to say though, throw an emoji down there to help with the algorithm. If you like Dungeons and Dragons and other nerd culture content, make sure to subscribe to the channel, give this video a thumbs up, and until next time, good luck in your adventures.